On March 17, 1989, an autumn Friday, the sky over Rio de Janeiro dawned clear, with a mild temperature of 20 degrees Celsius, perfect conditions for photographing nature. Cristina Mendez, a 32-year-old photographer specializing in environmental photojournalism, informed her fiancé that she would spend the day in the Tijuca Forest to capture images for an essay on the Atlantic forest that would be published in Natureza Brasileira magazine. Cristina was a respected professional in the field, having worked for important publications such as Veja and Manchete. Graduated in journalism from UFRJ in 1982, dedicated her career to documenting environmental issues, a period in which Brazil faced growing debates about environmental preservation, especially after the enactment of the 1988 Constitution, which dedicated an entire chapter to the environment. A resident of Botafogo, Cristina left home at 6:30 in the morning. According to Paulo Rodrigues, her fiancé, with whom she had shared an apartment for 3 years. He was wearing jeans, a beige cotton shirt, a vest with many pockets, hiking boots, and a green backpack containing professional photography equipment, a Nikon F3, 3 different lenses, film, a notebook, water, and light food. Paulo recalls that she seemed excited about the work, as she had researched rare species of bromeliads that bloomed at that time of year. At 7:45, Cristina was last seen at the bus stop near the entrance to Tijuca National Park in the forest sector by João Pereira, a forest ranger who knew her from previous visits. She greeted me. He said he was going to take pictures in the Pico da Tijuca region and that he would return in the late afternoon. Since she knew the area well, I didn't show any concern, João stated in his testimony. The Tijuca Forest, the largest urban forest in the world, with its 3,953 hectares of restored Atlantic forest, is a verdant labyrinth of trails, waterfalls, and peaks. In 1989, despite being a national park since 1961, security and monitoring were significantly less rigorous than they are today. The trails lacked the same level of mapping, signage, or regular inspections. The alarm about Cristina's disappearance was only raised at 8:15 p.m. that same day, when Paulo, concerned about his fiancé's prolonged absence, called the military police. According to his account, Cristina always warned when she would be late and would never spend the night in the forest without prior notice. The case was initially treated as a common delay, and the police suggested waiting until the following morning. In the early hours of March 18th, with no news, Paulo contacted the fire department and the National Park Administration. A search team was formed at 6:30 a.m., including firefighters, forest rangers, and volunteers familiar with the region. The weather had changed dramatically overnight, with heavy rains hampering the search and obscuring any possible tracks. For 3 consecutive days, rescue teams scoured the area where Cristina was believed to be, covering Tijuca Peak and 1,021 meters above sea level, as well as adjacent trails. Helicopters were used when weather conditions permitted, but dense vegetation limited aerial visibility. Sniffer dogs were deployed on the 4th day without success. On March 25th, after a week of intensive searching, concrete evidence was found. Cristina's green backpack, partially hidden under foliage, approximately 800 meters from the main trail, in a difficult-to-access area known as Vale das Almas Valley of Souls. Inside the backpack were her notebook with records from earlier that day, a half-empty bottle of water, and some untouched snacks. Curiously, all her photography equipment was missing. The location of the backpack was perplexing. From an area not included in the itinerary Cristina mentioned to the forest ranger. Even more intriguing, there were no signs of a struggle, blood, or other clues suggesting an accident or animal attack. If you want to follow more cases like this, which shake up society as a whole and reveal hidden truths, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any investigations. With the discovery of the backpack, the case, which had already attracted the attention of the local press, gained national prominence. The Rio de Janeiro Civil Police assigned Chief Roberto Montero of the Missing Persons Division to coordinate the investigation. Brazil was in its first year under a new democratic constitution after the end of the military dictatorship, and the pressure for results in high-profile cases was intense. The initial lines of investigation followed three main hypotheses: a fatal accident in the woods with the body in an inaccessible location, a wild animal attack, or a human attack, the absence of photographic equipment, and the unexpected location of the backpack strengthened the theory of foul play. On March 28, 1989, the police reconstructed the known route of Cristina with the help of Paulo and Forest Ranger Joe. During this process, the first significant clue emerged. Residents of a nearby community reported seeing a woman with similar characteristics to Cristina being approached by two men near one of the secondary entrances to the forest around 4 p.m. on the day of her disappearance. Maria Conceição, 57, a resident of Alto da Boa Vista, stated, "I saw the woman with a large camera. She looked scared as she talked to two men near the entrance to the cave path. One of them wore a uniform similar to that of the park rangers, but something struck me as odd about their approach." This information completely redirected the investigation. Police began searching park employee records and found that no rangers were assigned to that specific area at the time mentioned. The search, which had previously focused on Tijuca Peak, was extended to the Caminho das Grutas region, a less frequented area of the park. At the same time, Cristina's life was thoroughly investigated. Her work as an environmental photojournalist included reports of illegal deforestation and irregular occupations in conservation areas. 3 months before her disappearance, she had published an investigative piece on illegal palm heart extraction in the Tijuca region, an activity involving organized groups. Chief Montero also explored the possibility that the photos taken that day could have captured something compromising. "We are working with the hypothesis that Cristina may have photographed something she shouldn't have, whether it was illegal activity in the forest or people who didn't want to be identified," she stated at a press conference on April 5, 1989. The investigation faced significant obstacles. The first was the climate. Constant rain in the weeks following the disappearance made collecting physical evidence difficult. The second was the vastness of the area. The Tijuca Forest, with its numerous trails, caves, and dense forest areas, presented a logistical challenge for thorough searches. The third, and perhaps most significant, was the limited technology of the time. Without cell phones, GPS, or surveillance, cameras tracking Cristina's movements after her last sighting became virtually impossible. In May 1989, the investigation took a new direction when the police identified Antonio Silveira, a former park employee who had been fired 3 months before his disappearance due to involvement with poachers. Antonio had vast knowledge of the forest and had clashed with environmentalists in the past. When questioned, he presented an alibi. "I was in Petropolis, mountain town 68 kilometers from Rio, as confirmed by witnesses." Another complicating factor emerged when Paulo revealed that Cristina had received threatening phone calls in the weeks before her disappearance. She didn't give it much importance. He said it was common in his profession, especially after controversial reports, he reported. However, there were no phone records that could trace the origin of the calls. During the winter of 1989, with physical searches reduced due to weather conditions, police focused on analyzing similar cases that had occurred in the region. It was discovered that between 1985 and 1989, 3 other people had disappeared under similar circumstances in forested areas of Rio de Janeiro, although in different parks. none of the cases had been solved. In August, the investigation suffered a severe blow when the lead investigator, Chief Montero, was transferred to another department during a period of restructuring at the Fluminense Civil Police. The case was handed over to Detective Sergio Andrade, who decided to re-examine all the evidence from the beginning. Andrade noticed an inconsistency in the statements. Ranger Joe Pereira had mentioned that Cristina planned to take photos at Tijuca Peak, but her backpack was found in Valle das Almas in the opposite direction. This suggested that something or someone had caused Cristina to completely change her planned itinerary. At the end of 1989, with almost 9 months of investigation and no significant progress, the case began to cool down. The press gradually reduced coverage, although Cristina's family and friends kept up the pressure for answers, distributing pamphlets and organizing monthly hikes in the Tijuca Forest. One of the few leads that remained open was the testimony of an illegal miner who occasionally operated in the region. In an anonymous statement, he claimed to have seen strange lights and heard vehicle sounds in an inaccessible area of Valle das Almas on the night of his disappearance. The information was considered unreliable and remained a footnote in the investigation. Meanwhile, Cristina's absence was producing concrete effects. Paulo, her fiancé, fell into a deep depression. A magazine where she worked published a special tribute with her best photographs. And at the entrance to the Tijuca Forest, a small plaque with her photo was installed with the words, "Cristina Mendez, photographer who disappeared in this forest on 3/17/1989. Anyone with information, please contact the police." In July 1991, 2 years and 4 months after Cristina Mendez's disappearance, an unexpected event rekindled investigations. During an operation against drug trafficking in the Boral community adjacent to the Tijuca Forest, police seized several items in a shed used as a warehouse by drug traffickers. Among objects of dubious origin, they found a damaged Nikon F3 camera with a serial number identical to that of Cristina's equipment. Police Chief Marcio Peixoto, who took over the case after Sergio Andrade retired, immediately ordered an analysis of the equipment. The film inside the camera, partially exposed to light, still contained 6 recoverable images. The photographs, developed using special techniques by the Institute of Forensics, showed landscapes of the Tijuca Forest, including rare bromeliads, exactly what Cristina intended to photograph. The last image, however, caused perplexity. It partially showed what appeared to be an artificial clearing in the woods, with what experts identified as excavation equipment. The photograph was blurry, suggesting it was taken in a hurry or while moving. This image is consistent with the theory that Cristina may have witnessed some illegal activity in the forest, declared expert Carlos Eduardo Mirals. The way the photo was taken suggests she may have photographed something in a hurry, possibly hidden. The discovery of the camera established a concrete connection with the Boral community, which at the time was dominated by the Comando Vermelho criminal faction. Jorge Luis Fernandez, aka Giorgio, then 45 years old, was the head of local drug trafficking and also controlled operations in the forest area adjacent to the community. A covert operation was set up to investigate the activities of Giorgio and his associates in the Tijuca Forest region. In September 1991, an undercover informant reported that the Valle das Almas area, where Cristina's backpack had been found, was occasionally used by the group to bury weapons and drugs, taking advantage of the isolation and dense vegetation. Even more significant, the informant mentioned a problem with a nosy woman that had occurred a few years earlier, and that Jorga considered a closed matter that no one should talk about. In October 1991, based on this new information, the police obtained a court order and carried out excavations at specific points in the Valle das Almas, using metal detectors and dogs trained to locate human remains. After 3 days of intensive searches, they found the first concrete evidence of Christina's fate. A hiking boot identified as identical to the one she was wearing on the day she disappeared, buried approximately 1 meter deep. The next day, 15 meters. From the boot site, investigators discovered a set of partially decomposed human bones buried 1.5 meters deep. Preliminary forensic analysis identified them as belonging to an adult woman with a height and build compatible with Christina. Definitive. Confirmation came weeks later through dental records. Examination of the remains revealed something even more disturbing. Bullet marks on the skull indicating that Christina had been executed with a point-blank shot to the occipital region. This is a typical execution, likely carried out by someone experienced in homicide, the forensic report concluded. This macabre discovery turned the disappearance case into a homicide investigation, focusing on the criminal organization led by Giorgio. However, the operation faced unexpected obstacles. 2 weeks after the discovery of the body, the undercover informant was found dead in a vacant lot in Baixa Fluminense with signs of torture. At the same time, Giorgio disappeared from Borel, beginning an escape that would last months. In March 1992, a turnaround occurred. Claudio Ferreira, Giorgio's former security guard, arrested for another crime, offered information about Christina's case in exchange for legal benefits. His testimony, taken under witness protection, finally clarified the events of that fateful March 17, 1989. Leave a comment and never give up on the truth if you believe that all missing people deserve to be found. According to Claudio Ferreira's testimony on that day, in March 1989, Cristina Mendes had inadvertently photographed a crucial operation for the Red Command. In Vale das Almas, an isolated area of the Tijuca Forest, Jorga and 5 accomplices were unearthing a large shipment of imported weapons, including AR-15 rifles and grenades, which had been hidden months earlier during a police operation in Borel. We were finishing digging up the boxes when Giorgio saw a flash between the trees. He sent 2 men to check, and they found the woman trying to escape. She had a professional camera and looked terrified, Claudio reported. Giorgio examined the camera and saw that it had photos of the gun crates and some faces. He was furious. According to the testimony, Christina was kept under surveillance for a few hours while the group finished removing the weapons. At dusk, they decided to solve the problem definitively. Giorgio had allegedly personally ordered the execution, carried with a 9 Vib Millimeter pistol with a silencer, a weapon he usually carried. We buried the body right there in a deep grave. Giorgio took the camera, saying he was going to destroy it, but apparently he kept it as a trophy, Claudio concluded. It was all very cold, as if they were discarding trash. No one showed any remorse. This testimony provided the missing link, connecting the disappearance to arms trafficking and explaining why Christina had deviated so much from her original itinerary. Apparently, after photographing the bromeliads on Tijuca Peak, she decided to explore other areas of the forest, possibly attracted by the variety of vegetation, and ended up in the wrong place at the most tragic time possible. On June 10, 1992, after months of searching, Giorgio was located and arrested in Resende, in the interior of Rio de Janeiro, where he was living under a false identity. Confronted with the evidence, including Claudio's testimony and the ballistic analysis that proved a match between the bullets found in Christina's skull and a gun seized from his possession, he eventually confessed to the crime. During the trial in March 1993, even darker details came to light. Giorgio revealed that after executing Christina, he ordered his men to return to the site of the first approach to recover the backpack, thus eliminating any connection with the Vale das Almas area. However, in a hurry and fearing encountering park patrols, they ended up leaving the backpack in a visible place, a mistake that hastened the discovery of the body years later. Giorgio was sentenced to 30 years in prison for aggravated homicide, concealment of a corpse, and other drug-related crimes. 3 of his accomplices, identified as Claudio, also received severe sentences. A 4th person involved had been killed in a confrontation with police in 1991, and the 5th was never identified. The conclusion of the case brought partial relief to Cristina's family and friends. Paulo Rodriguez, her fiancé, who had fallen into a deep depression after her disappearance, actively participated in the trial. Knowing the truth, however painful, allows us to begin the grieving process that was suspended for 4 years, he declared after the sentencing. Cristina's work received posthumous recognition. In 1994, the Brazilian Association of Environmental Journalism established the Cristina Mendes Award for reporting on environmental conservation. Her story also inspired changes to the security protocols of Tijuca National Park, including stricter monitoring of isolated trails and a system for recording visitor arrivals and departures. At the site where her remains were found, a small bronze plaque was installed with the inscription, Cristina Mendes, 19,579, photographer and environmentalist who gave her life for the truth. May the forest she loved so much keep her memory. In the years following the conviction of Giorgio and his accomplices, the Cristina Mendes case sparked waves of change that extended far beyond the judicial system. Public opinion, shocked by the details of the crime, began demanding greater security. In environmentally protected areas in Rio de Janeiro and throughout the country. In 1995, the Ministry of the Environment, in partnership with the Secretariat of Public Security, implemented the Safe Parks program, establishing regular patrols and conservation units and emergency communication systems. The Tijuca Forest received special attention with the installation of checkpoints at secondary entrances and monitoring of less traveled trails. The case also exposed the complex relationship between surrounding communities and protected areas. Borol, like other communities adjacent to the Tijuca Forest, had an extension of its territory in the forest, used for both leisure and illicit activities. Beginning in 1996, socio-environmental projects sought to transform this relationship, involving residents in the protection and monitoring of the forest. In 1997, the Cristina Mendes Institute was founded by Paulo Rodriguez and the photographer's family, with the dual goal of promoting environmental journalism and supporting families of missing persons. The institute became a national reference, offering free psychological and legal assistance, as well as maintaining a database of missing persons in natural areas. Jorgo's judicial history also revealed disturbing aspects of the Brazilian prison system. In 2001, he was granted a semi-open regime, a benefit provided by law after serving part of his sentence. However, during a temporary release in June 2002, he escaped, remaining at large for almost a year before being recaptured in São Paulo. This episode sparked intense debate about the effectiveness of penalties for heinous crimes in Brazil. Heinous Crimes Law and Law 807,290, which included aggravated homicide, had already been amended in 1994. But victims' rights organizations, including the Cristina Mendes Institute, pushed for more significant changes to sentencing. In 2003, a documentary titled Silenced in the Forest, the Cristina Mendes case reignited public interest in the story. Produced by TV Cultura and directed by Denise Goncalves, the film not only reconstructed the crime, but also explored its impact on Brazilian society, environmental journalism, and public safety policies in natural areas. Cristina's photographic equipment, recovered during the investigation, was restored, and her last photographs were included in a traveling exhibition that toured Brazil between 2004 and 2006, titled Last Look. The exhibition contrasted the bucolic images of bromeliads and landscapes with the fateful partial photograph of the clearing that sealed her fate. The exhibition was visited by over 300,000 people. Internationally, the case gained attention. Through the International Federation of Journalists, which included Christina's story in its annual report on journalists killed in the line of duty. Although she was not technically reporting for a specific media outlet that day, her work as an environmental photojournalist was recognized as a determining factor in her death. Paulo Rodriguez, who struggled with depression for years after Christina's disappearance and death, found new purpose at the institute that bears her name. In 2010, at the age of 57, he published the book Interrupted Love: My Life with Christina and the Fight for Justice, a moving account of the couple's relationship and their years of searching for answers. In an interview to promote the book, Paulo reflected, Christina died doing what she loved, recording the beauty and secrets of nature. The irony is that she captured something much darker than any rare plant. She captured the raw truth about how crime invaded even our natural sanctuaries. This truth cost her life, but it also saved many others by exposing a problem no one wanted to see. The Tijuca Forest, the scene of the tragedy, also underwent significant transformations. Valle das Almas an area remotely visited before the crime, paradoxically became one of the most closely monitored areas of the park. In 2015, a fire department outpost was established nearby, improving emergency response times throughout the forest region. Giorgio, after multiple attempts to reduce his sentence and receive benefits, died in prison in 2018, the victim of a massive heart attack at the age of 72. His death closed a chapter in history, but the echo of the crime he committed continues to reverberate in the collective memory of Rio de Janeiro. In 2019, on the 30th anniversary of Christina's disappearance, a ceremony brought together hundreds of people at the main entrance to the Tijuca Forest. Environmental journalists, activists, authorities, and ordinary citizens planted 32 native tree seedlings, one for each year Christina lived. The initiative symbolically transformed tragedy into renewal, just like the Tijuca Forest itself, once a degraded area, and now a lush testament to environmental recovery. Christina Mendez's story remains a warning about the risks faced by professionals who document environmental issues. It also serves as a reminder of the vulnerability of natural areas to the infiltration of organized crime, especially in urban areas where pressure on these spaces is constant. If you've watched this far, it's because you care about these cases that mark families forever. Leave a comment saying, I watched this far so I can get to know you and know who truly cares about the search for truth. Don't forget to like this video and share it with people who value real stories that have impacted our society. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next cases, documented with the same commitment to truth and respect for victims.